What's up guys, Spirit here coming at you with another deck profile. This is a deck I use on average. It is called Archfiend Darkworld. It is a mixed deck profile that is underused in formats, and it is, oh my god, this deck is brilliant. It is so fun to play, and it's way too easy to get these cards off, and even against format, it's tier 2. Maybe tier 3 depending on how you play it, but it's all about choosing the correct time and place to use all your cards. So if you play this deck, if you take this deck profile and you use this deck, please make sure to practice it before you take it to tournament, because this deck can get a little confusing to play. Alright, so let's start this deck profile out. I hope you guys like it. Number 1 is 3 Archfiend Emperor. He is one of your 2 boss monsters in this deck. He is absolutely brilliant. You can normal summon him without tribute, and he's destroyed at end phase, and his attack and defense is halved, but his effect is you can remove an Archfiend card from the graveyard and pop a card on the field. He is a Barbaros that can nuke stuff on the field. It is absolutely amazing. Little side note for a ruling: if you chain chain skill drain to his summoning, he will still get destroyed at end phase. However, if skill drain is already active on the field and you normal summon him, he is just like Barbaros. His attack points will go back to normal, and he will not be destroyed at end phase. It's a brilliant card. He's really good for popping, and it's a really good control card. So he's one of your 2 boss monsters in the deck. In any case, let's move on. Got 2 Archfiend Empress in the deck. She is another very high good card in the deck. Her effect is if she's destroyed by a card effect, you can special summon 1 level 6 or higher Fiend from your graveyard. Fiend, so you can summon Grapple with her, you can summon Emperor with her. She's really good. She's a 29 beat stick, and if she's face up on the side of the field at the same time as any other monster, if exactly 1 other Dark Fiend except for her would be destroyed by a card effect, you can remove a Dark Fiend, 1 Fiend card from your graveyard, and negate the activation of the card, and just basically protect your monster. It's a very good card to have, and she's really good to have on the field for protection. Like, you can smash into Mirror Force with this and then get a free Emperor. So moving on, we got 3 Archfiend Empress. This card is your searcher for the deck. Is one of your 2 searchers for the deck. She works just like Snow. You can search any Archfiend card when she's discarded by a card effect, and at the same time she works as a double negative. If she's destroyed by battle as well, you can also search that Archfiend card. So if she goes to the graveyard by card effect or by battle, it is absolutely brilliant. You get a free search, and you'd be surprised how often you get this off. It is really good. You can search Emperor, you can search Empress, you can search any of the cards that say Archfiend on them, which makes it where you can get your second field spell or Archfiend's Roar. So good card. Next up is 2 Archfiend's Cavalry. It's a 1900 beater. Normal summon, run into Mirror Force with this thing, get a free Emperor. Its effect is if it's destroyed by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Archfiend card from your graveyard except Archfiend Cavalry, which means you can get another search off with Empress, another search off with Eris. You can get Empress on the field, and you can even go for Emperor. So, and since he's not limited to level, you can just get about everything except him. So he's a good card. I like him at 2. 4, 3 seems kind of cloggy. So moving on, now we're getting to the Darkworld. We got 3 Snow in the deck. She's used for searching out the field spell, the Darkworld's field spell, as well as Dealings and Grapha. Those are about all the cards you ever search for. If you get her late game, you might search for the beige in the deck just to get the free Grapha off, but more often than not, you only search for the field spell or Dealings. She's pretty much just a remove fodder for the gates if she's in the graveyard, and if you normal summon her, you get the free Grapha. That's about it. She's kind of self-explanatory in the deck. Next up, we have 2 Grapha, Lord of Darkworld. We only use 2 because we have Emperor for the backup pop effects, and since Shadow Imprisoning Mirror is still a thing, he will not always get his pop effects off, which is why we have Emperor, because he's still beat stick with Shadow Imprisoning Mirror on the field, whereas Grapha can't be played. So we only have 2 in the deck, and we side out at leisure, so just know that. He is side out for MST's second game if you need him. So, really good card. Pop effects is kind of self-explanatory. Next up is one beige in the deck. You tech him for bringing back the Grapha. I usually side him out game 2. He's only really necessary game 1, so one beige. And then the last monsters in the deck are 2 Trance Archfiends. We only run 2 because it is an Archfiend card, so it is, in fact, searchable by Eris. So it's really good to always have a discard outlet to be able to search for. And if you use Gates as primarily as I do, you can banish out your Emperors or any other cards in your graveyard with Gates, and you can get them back to hand pretty easily with him. He is quite simply just a good card in the deck. Moving on to spell cards, we have 3 Darkworld dealings in the deck. It's pretty self-explanatory. You get Snow's effect, you get Eris's effect, you can plug your graveyard with Emperor for Empress, and you can also put Empress in the graveyard to bring back with Roar. So it's pretty self-explanatory in the deck, 3 Darkworld dealings. This is kind of standard in any Darkworld deck variant, is still 3 drag down to the grave. It gives you hand advantage, and it lets you get rid of annoying things your opponent might be able to pull over on you next turn. It's pretty simple. You use this with Empress or Eris in hand, or Darkworld Snow, so you can get your card effects off and make sure your opponent cannot. It's kind of a self-explanatory card, but it's always good to have in the deck. Next up is 2 trade-in. You run such a majority of level 8s that it's so playable. You run Emperor, which is not afraid to put in the graveyard. You run Empress, which you also really want in the graveyard. And in rare times, you can even use it to dump Grapha. You won't get the pop effect off with Grapha, but you will get 2 free cards. And if you have Beige in hand, you get the free Grapha summon, where maybe you didn't need to pop. So 2 trade-in is simply the tech for it. It is really good, and you will always be able to dump something, because Eris can search out 2 of your level 8s and Snow can search out the other one. So you always have something in hand for this. Next up is 2 Gates of the Darkworld. I side deck the 3rd one. The 2 Gates is only really necessary at 2 because you run 2 of the other field spell for the Archfiends to summon your big Archfiends later in the game. This card is really just good early game fodder to get the double search and draw, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Go for it early game if you can. Next up is 2 of the Archfiends field spell. It is good to have on your side of the field if you're doing mirror match, because it only increases your monsters. In addition, it is also good for boosting up your things. It boosts up by 500 points versus 300 points, so that 1900 beater we saw earlier goes to a 24 beater with this on the field. And if you have late game and you have that in hand and you don't want to use it, you have Emperor out on the field, you normal summon that card, you target your Emperor, you remove it, you bring back Empress, or you bring Empress out from deck or from graveyard, and you get a free big beater on the field for nothing. It is absolutely ridiculous what this card can do. Next up are my last spell cards in the deck. We have 2 Falling Down. You always side this out game 2. This is a good game 1 card. What it does is if you have an Archfiend card on the field, this also works with the Pal Labyrinth, so make sure we know about that. If you have an Archfiend card on the field, you can take control of one of your opponent's monsters. You take 800 damage every one of their standby phases, but it is absolutely brilliant to have this card in deck. I have one hit a Lava Quasar deck with their own Quasar, using this card and baiting them into negating another card effect so their monster would not be destroyed. They went first turn Quasar, I got Emperor out, I got Emperor's effect, they had to negate, destroy Emperor, and then I played Falling Down over Pal Labyrinth to make sure I could take their Quasar and game them with their own card. So it's a really good card in the deck. Always side it out game 2 because you're not really necessary for game 2, but it's always good game 1. It's very unexpected, so it's a really good card. Into the traps, we have 3 Archfiend's Roar. It is your best trap in the entire deck. Pay 500 life points and you can bring back any Archfiend monster from your graveyard. It is destroyed at the end phase. It is good for Emperor plays if you absolutely need it. However, it is really, really, really good in conjunction with both Empress and Cavalry. They lets you get it lets you get a beater out on the field, and then at the end phase when it's destroyed, you get your free Emperor back, or you get your Grapha back, or you get an Eris out, something. It's just it's really good card in the deck, and it's searchable by Eris, so you get you almost always have access to this. You'll have one almost every duel. Next, we have the balancer in the deck is 3 skill drain. You really need this card in the deck because without it, this is your equalizer. I have yet to play a game where I haven't drawn into at least one of these at some point in the deck. It is really good to have this early game, and it's just your equalizer for the entire game because you have most of your card effects happen in the graveyard, so you're not really necessity to have this on the field. That doesn't really hurt you. Emperor's effect will not go off for the popping, but it's just all about when you play it, like I said before. And the last cards of the deck are 2 Dark Smog with, you needed the extra discard outlet, and with so many things relying like zombies and Light Sworns on graves so heavily these days, this card just cannot be passed up. You get to target a card in your opponent's graveyard, remove it, ditch a Fiend from your hand, and you get its effect off. You can Snow's effect off, you get Eris's effect off. You can stack Empress in the graveyard, you can stack Emperor in the graveyard. So, or you can even pop a card with Grapha. It's always, this card is good all day, and I hope you guys make use of this card. On to the extra deck. We have, of course, a 15 card extra deck. With this deck, I will say before I show you the extra deck, you almost never go anything in the extra deck. I have gone several games where I've only played 1 card in the extra deck and is the one on top. Everything else is just maybe necessity for game 2, but I almost never use the extra deck with this because this deck is just so playable on its own effects. The first card and the only card I go to very frequently is Lavalval Chain, because you can, if you're stuck with 2 level 4s like the Beige or the Cavalry in hand first turn, you can get them both on the field. You can go Cavalry, you can dump your Eris to the graveyard and it will get its effect off, so you can search out the Roar or the Emperor you so desperately need in your hand for that trade-in, and it's just an all-around good card in the deck. So this is the one we go to most often. Everything else is just very situational. Moving on, we have 1 Evil Swarm Nightmare. This is for that late game if your opponent is going to be trying something tricky. I have summoned him once out of all the duels I've played, so he's just a really good tech in the deck. That's just about it. Next up is 1 Levier, the Sea Dragon. Since we do not play Tour Guide in the main deck, you almost never ever go this card. You'll probably get it off once every 100 duels, and the only card in the deck you can use to go this is Eris, because she is the only level 3 you have in the entire deck. So that being clear, this card is almost not unplayable in the deck. However, you really don't have much of an extra deck needed because of Archfiend Emperor's second effect, which as long as he's face up on the field, you can't summon anything but Fiend types, which is why most of this extra deck is Fiends. However, you're probably not going to get to play him that often. Next up is a number 22 Zombie Stein. If you're with the amounts of level 8s you're stacking, he's way too easy to go for. I have 1 hit over an Obelisk with this thing simply because I couldn't get over it because I can't target him. But this card is absolutely brilliant. I went into Empress, and I brought Grapha back, and then I stacked up into this thing. He was not expecting it, beat over Obelisk, and was able to win the game. It is just simply it's in the extra deck for big beat stick. So that's just about it. Next up is 1 Tempo. Mind you, all the Djinns are Fiend types, so you can summon this almost all the time. You will never be able to summon it though because it is rank 3. Like I said, rank 3s are very rare to go for in this deck. Next is Evil Swarm Thanatos. Again, you're probably never going to summon this card. However, it is still simply just a 2-card card to pass up. So that's it. Next up is Levier the Sea Dragon. Not Levier the Sea Dragon, excuse me, number 17, Leviathan Dragon. This card is just a beat stick if you need it late game. Again, you almost never go your rank 3s, so I tech Tour Guide at the beginning of the game when I was building this deck. I no longer tech Tour Guide because I don't run Brow. But the deck is still very playable, and you almost never go your rank 3s, but you need extra deck filler space because there's almost no cards in the deck that you really go for anything else. Next is 1 Heretic Sun Dragon for those tricky plays when you need to get over something very big, or maybe you just haven't been able to use your resources correctly. It's just for that one-hit wonder card. Next up is Zen Mains. It's kind of self-explanatory. Again, you don't go for your rank 3s that often. 1 is Utopia because we don't have really any playability in the deck for rank 4s. 2 is Zenith. so he's just attacking the deck if you need him late game. Next is number 66, Key Beetle. I found myself using him a little more often than most of the other extra deck cards, except for Chain. It is he is just a good card. You run Darks, he's playable, so Key Beetle. It's kind of self-explanatory there. Next up is Steel Swarm Roach. He is not very playable. I have summoned him once out of all the times I've played this deck. Once. So I almost never go him. He's just extra deck filler space. Next up is Maestro the Symphony de Jin. I have summoned him 3 times, and all the times I've played this deck at locals, and I really don't see why I need to keep telling you this, but the extra deck is almost non-playable. Thank God he's a fiend, so he can be summoned when Emperor's on the field. Cowboy is kind of self-explanatory, and Abyss Dweller is to deal with those pesky mermails. But this deck is very fun to play. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope to see you guys next time. So enjoy the deck and stay gold.